Well, good afternoon and welcome everybody to today's webinar. Today we're going to be talking about email marketing, how to attract and retain profitable clients. Before we get started, thought I'd give you a little introduction as to who I am. My name is Pat McGraw, and I've been helping for-profit and non-profit organizations in a wide variety of industries over the last 3 decades find more effective ways to attract high-quality leads and new clients, as well as retain profitable clients. I've worked with small family-owned businesses to global corporations in retail, e-commerce, technology, professional services, hotel travel and tourism, education. Basically what that means is I've worked in a lot of different industries, environments, cultures, situations with a lot of different resources, a lot of different goals and objectives, different cultures. That kind of perspective has helped me identify truly the best practices in email marketing, and have been able to build some very, very successful campaigns for clients over the years. So just wanted to share what my background is. Today we're going to focus on the e-newsletter portion of email marketing, and I'll get into why I'd like to start off with that today in just a little bit. But first, a little bit of the housekeeping chores for all webinars. All attendees, you've been muted, so please forgive me for not telling you sooner, especially if you've been trying to talk to me and wondering why I'm not responding. I can't hear you. However, if you did want to ask a question or make a statement, at the top of your screen is a pull-down menu, and in that pull-down menu is a chat feature. Go ahead and use that to ask questions or make statements. I'm going to try to respond to all of them as we go through as appropriately. There is time at the end for questions and answers, so I'll get to most, if not all, then. If for some reason we run long, this is being recorded. So what I'll do is answer all the questions before I make the archive of this video, our webinar, and then when I send this out and post it online for everybody to watch again, it will have everybody's questions, answers, statements addressed in it. I'll also, if I don't get to you today, send you an email with a response so you get a direct follow-up. All right, that's all the fun stuff. We've got a lot to cover today, so let's get started. Oh, before I forget, the most important part, for those of you who have made it here today, thank you. And for those of you who make it to the end, I have an extra special reward, an incentive, which is a series of some free material that you're going to find, I think, really valuable. The first is 7 common email mistakes and how to avoid them. Next is 29-step email marketing checklist for success. Next is 9 steps to build your subscriber list. You'll also receive a free editorial calendar and production schedule to help keep everything on track. And last, and certainly not least, you'll receive 7 tips for subject lines that increase open rates. Pretty good stuff. All right, here we go. Let's start off with the basics. Why email? Well, to put it simple, it works. 64% of decision makers read emails. 77% of consumers prefer it. 44% admit they're going to buy at least one item based on a promotional email being sent to them. It's a great way to help with helping your clients understand other services you offer that they didn't originally come to you for, so that they can now begin to expand into other services with you, which will then increase the amount of business you do with them, probably per month, per year, lifetime value. And it can be very low cost, can be very high return. And we'll even get into a little bit of break-even analysis on this one later on, because I know we all love to do math when we're at webinars. Now, I mentioned earlier, I'm going to focus on email newsletters specifically today. And you probably thought, well, wait a minute, there's a whole bunch of other types. And you're right. And that URL at the bottom of this page that shows you 4 different types of about 12 to 16 that I address in the email on that URL. That blog post is, the blog post at that URL. That blog post is entitled, Are You Using the Right Type of Email? And it gets into all the different types. Here what you see is one offering a free gift, another's an invitation to come to an event, another's an invitation to take a survey, and there's thank you for subscribing to my email newsletter. All wonderful things. But all of these have their own distinct purpose. And what I want to focus on today is that e-newsletter, because this is a format that can help you attract high-quality leads and clients much earlier in the decision-making process because it's predominantly educational. With these other emails, you're offering them a deal, but asking them to buy or share information or come to an event. Now, these are important things, and they're things that you can do in the e-newsletter, but you have to get them on the list first, and you have to get them to subscribe, and free information is what will accomplish the goal. So imagine someone in your target audience that has never done business with you before. They haven't even made themselves known to you. They're in that unaware stage of the buying process. And all they're trying to do right now is stay on top of their area of responsibility. Take me for an example. I'm not in the market for a high-end CRM or marketing automation system, or even a low-end marketing automation system. But I do have professional needs to stay on top of what's going on in marketing automation and CRM and things of that nature. So I go to these companies' websites and I subscribe to their newsletters and I learn about the technology through them and what's going on in the marketplace so I can help my clients provide them with greater value. Now, over time, I learn, I become comfortable with these companies, I build trust in them. And that's because of the newsletter and the content that they're sharing. And no, I haven't purchased any product from a HubSpot or a Marketo or a Pardot, but I've recommended them to others that have. So they've made money off of me. Now, all of this email marketing requires a great deal of work. And let's be honest, many of you listening here aren't email marketers. Your core competency, your strengths are in other areas. You just need email to work for your business. And in that situation, some of the more common mistakes that you may be prone to include a sporadic, inconsistent e-newsletter timing, poorly programmed e-newsletter design and layout that displays incorrectly in various email programs, too much content in the email, an unappealing subject line, a lack of subscriber management for opt-out capabilities, a lack of analysis on open rates and click-through rates, and industry subscription services at lower rates. So let's start here. What's the purpose of the email? What's the strategy? What's the goal? What's the objective? Is it to generate leads, increase retention, motivate existing customers to buy other services, something else? With an email newsletter, you can do all of this if you're careful and have an effective process for developing and managing segments and using personalization and automation. Let's say, for example, you want to generate leads. Promote the newsletter to prospects as a fast, easy way for them to get information they need without being pestered by sales. Research has shown that customers and potential business clients, business buyers, are 50% or more into their decision-making process by the time they finally make themselves known to a potential business. The e-newsletter allows them to avoid the high-pressure sales push while getting to know your business and your offerings. It allows them to figure out what their problems are, what the potential solutions are, and then who the best solution providers are for their particular situation. Now, as far as retention rates are concerned, you can use your e-newsletter to make your existing clients aware of what you're doing in other areas that would be of value to them so that you can sell them other services, cross-sell them, upsell them, and increase their lifetime value and also the amount of business they do with you on an annual basis. Now, the best way to get started, start with your customer base. Make sure you invite them to subscribe and ask them about their interests so you can make sure that the content's going to be of interest to them and it will get them to become active, engaged readers and maybe even share it with friends and pass it along to other people like colleagues and things like that. Segment your customers based on key factors that can help you consistently deliver unique, valuable content to them. For example, say you're an accounting firm that offers accounting services to corporations and wealth management services to high net worth individuals. You're going to want to segment by current services and then add to the content those other services that this audience would be interested in. For example, maybe estate planning and retirement planning. If you own a restaurant or a bar, you might want to capture the key dates like birthdays and anniversaries so that you can send out appropriate content to these people on those dates in the newsletter. For example, this month's birthday celebrations and this month's anniversary celebrations are blah, 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 blah. whatever they may be, and you can get that in the newsletter as well. Now, start with your goals, your objectives, your definitions for success, because that's what's going to drive your decisions regarding resources, and it's going to drive your decisions regarding how long before you know this is or isn't working. Now, some of these goals here are going to be pretty fast, pretty immediate. Open rates, click rates. But the other goals are going to be longer after you've been in the market with your email newsletter for several months. Things like order rates, order sizes, order frequency. Next thing you need to figure out is who's going to produce the e-newsletter. And what email service are you going to use to make sure that it's distributed properly? Are you going to produce it internally? And if so, who's going to do it? How much time is that going to take? What's that do to their workload? What experience do they have that qualifies them to do this? And what experience or training are they going to need to become better at it and proficient at it? And what's all the costs associated therein? If you're going to produce it externally, who's going to do it for you as well? What's their experience and what's their cost structure? And then which email service platform are you going to use? Or do you have in your own business marketing automation software that it would allow you to do it internally? Now, let's say you decide to go external for a second, and you're going to hire a writer, a freelancer, to get involved with your newsletter. Well, if all they're going to do is copyright the stories, that's one thing. But others may get more involved and provide more services. For example, it may be the email strategy development. They may get involved in creating sign-up forms, subscription forms. They may get involved with setting up your A/B testing so that you have a constant process for identifying ways to improve performance going forward. They may get involved with landing pages. They may get involved with reporting and some other services. Now, you can spend between $1,000 and $5,000 a month, depending on that and the frequency of your emails. Are you doing this as a weekly, a bi-weekly, a monthly publication? So that's kind of what you're looking at in terms of costs. Now, email platforms. If you're looking at it at having to use an outside source, the cost could range from no charge at all. For those of you who have less than 2,000 contact records, for example, MailChimp has a free offer. With others, and above 2,000, you could maybe go, $1,000 or more per month due to the large subscriber base. And then if you do have marketing automation solutions in-house like Marketo or Pardot, then you have to look at what you're already paying for those services and what the impact is on your costs. All right, so what's this mean in terms of a breakdown, a break-even analysis? All right, so let's look at it this way. Your average sale is $1,000, and you have a margin of 50%. So there's your $1,000 transaction, 50% profit, $500 per transaction is profit. If your budget was to have a copywriter only come in and just write copy for your e-newsletter and everything else that I mentioned earlier was going to be done by someone else, and you thought your entire costs were going to be $1,000, all you need is 2 transactions. If it was that higher end, 5,000, you're looking at 10 transactions. So at this point, you're able to sit down and make a decision as to what we feel is realistic. Do you think an e-newsletter can generate 2 to 5 incremental transactions on a monthly basis as you move forward? And if you think that's feasible, then you start moving forward, and then you measure the actual results and make the determination of this is paying for itself or this isn't paying for itself in, let's say, 6 to 12 months. Now, this is a cover shot of the content marketing editorial calendar that I had mentioned as one of the giveaways for attending this webinar. The reason I'm showing this here is if you decide to do email on your own, this is a great tool to help you stay on top of the production schedule. Who does what, when, what the tasks are, what the milestones are, when the emails, newsletters will be in market, and who they'll be going to, things of that nature. If you hire somebody, they might have their own way to do this, what the tool does, But this will give you a peek as to what to expect so you can talk more intelligently with them. The tool does come with a brief walkthrough video, so you can watch that, and it'll show you how to use it. But for now, the key is you want to be able to lay out probably 3 to 6 months worth of content ideas at any one time, and then keep it a rolling 3 to 6 months so that you can remain topical and be agile enough to respond to changes in the marketplace, changes in society with what your content will talk about. Also, remember to look up and look at the calendar, the real calendar, and see when your editorial calendar is actually going to be out in the real world. And I say that because you can get so focused at looking down at your desk and going, okay, the next email content needs to be on X and Y and Z, that you forget that the world is happening around you, and you're scheduling a bunch of emails to go out around the holidays, and you're not taking into account the holidays. And because you want to be relevant, you want to take into account what's on your readers' minds. So make the topics relevant to the seasons, the holidays. Something that a lot of firms just overlook because they get so focused on we need to do this story and this story and this story, and they forget it's December, and people are thinking about the holidays. They're thinking about New Year's resolutions. They're thinking about if it's a business hitting the end of the year goals. You've got a lot of opportunities right there to have even greater, more relevant content that's going to engage your readers that way. So don't miss those opportunities. All right, so here's the thing. 30% of emails will go bad annually. Brings up the topic. Hey, how are you going to build your list? Because if you're losing 30% annually, and this is, people change their email addresses. I don't know about you, but I personally have several Gmail addresses that I've used. I've retired a few over the years after they get a little out of hand with a little bit too much spam, but they disappear after a while. And then you're going to have your regular number of unsubscribes that you're going to have to deal with. So how are you going to grow your list knowing that at the end of a 12-month process, you're going to already be 30% below where you're at? So if you want to grow, you got to get 31%, right, to make up the difference. So here's some tips on building your list. Now this one, I'm going to take us off this for just a second, and I'm going to show us, here's my website, if in case you ever come to visit. And here's the first way to do it. And you'll notice that this popped up. Pop-ups. You've seen them, you love them, you hate them. As much as you hate them, as much as I hate them, they're effective. So use these on your websites. It'll be a great little tool to help you capture names of people visiting. This is set up for when the visitor is exhibiting behavior that they're going to leave the site and go somewhere else. And it pops up typically as the cursor goes to the top menu to go select a different URL. All right, next. Email signature. Put a hyperlink into your signature so that the person can click on it when they get your emails and subscribe to your newsletter. Perfect way to do it. Next, this is my Twitter page, and you'll see these two red circles. The first in the middle is what's called a pinned tweet. It's just like taking one of your many tweets and pinning it to the corkboard in the lunchroom. Everybody sees it. It's there forever. It doesn't move. All subsequent tweets will post just beneath this on your page, and that's where they'll flip through based on the most current. This one will stay there for as long as you keep it pinned. That should be subscribed to my email. On the left, under my biography, is another link to the subscription page for my emails. Next, Facebook, same thing. In the center, that's a pinned post. And over on the left, in the navigation links, email sign up, you got it in both locations. Back to my home page, I've got in addition to the pop-up, a part of the homepage that asks people to subscribe to the newsletter. Now you'll notice on this, there is only the one field for the email address. On the form that popped up earlier, it had email address, first name, and last name. I test to see which is most effective and gets me more people signing up. And the reason I do that is because some people are more willing to give me an email address than they are to give me names. And the premise behind this is in subsequent emails that I send to people from this source, I will tell them flat out, in order for me to provide you with valuable, relevant content, I need to know a little bit more about you. So if you could take the moment and provide me with a little bit more information, I can become much more valuable to you. Don't want to end up in your junk folder or unsubscribe. I really do want to deliver value. And part of that will be, can you give me your first name, your last name? And then they'll pick areas of interest so that some of them may get information about content strategy. Some may get something about email marketing. Some may get more information about interactive apps. And that's how I can break down my newsletter so that the right content gets to the right people at the right time. Now, those are the tips on how to build a list. Now, here's what you need to do to make sure that the email is visually appealing. And here's some tips that'll keep you going from there. You'll notice starting right at the top, you've got the header. For some, it might just be your logo. For others of you, it might be with a newsletter name. And you can use some very simple tools, Canva, canva.co, or Stencil, or Pixlr, Pixlr, let you take images, lay over text and other things, so you can create your headline images that way. When it comes to colors, let your logo be the guide. As you can see, the header is built around the logo colors, as are the links in the body of the newsletter itself. Use standard fonts, such as Times New Roman, Helvetica, or Arial, and keep it consistent throughout the newsletter. Now you can vary the sizes, but all header 1s should be the same size. Same for header 2s and 3s and your body copy. Sometimes people get into their newsletters and they've got different styles and different sizes, all in different places in the same newsletter, and you can get a little queasy trying to read those things. Now, stack the content one on top of the other so the eye can flow up and down the newsletter easily. That's for those of us who like to scan as opposed to start at the top and consume everything all the way down. Use images in order to help them know the breaks in the content and what the subject matter may be about. You can have access to royalty-free images at sites such as Pixabay, Pixabay, or Pexels, Pexels. And do me a favor, make sure you test it out on mobile devices, specifically tablets and smartphones. We tend to design these things on our desktops. Nice big screen, it looks lovely, but it's going to break differently on different devices. So make sure if you're using one of those email platforms, they have an ability to, when you lay it out, show it by desktop, tablet, smartphone. Make sure you look at all of them and make sure you're comfortable with the way it reformats on you and presents itself. And there's a smaller version of this. You'll notice that the way I like to lay out my newsletter is to start off with just a brief personal note about what's in the body of the newsletter, what we're covering, and then I'll put in a special offer in there. Don't forget, if you read something here today and you realize, wow, we really need help with our email. We really need help with writing blog posts that are getting more reads and more shares. I put an offer in there and then allow them to go down and do the rest of the news and the education on their own. All right, content and writing. These are they're your audience, so you know something about them and what their interests are. So now, what are you going to write about? Start with a survey. Validate your assumptions. What do they want to learn about from you? And give them a list of topics that you think that make sense and that you are an expert in rather than just asking them to pull it out of the air. It's always easier for someone to do a multiple choice, and especially more valid for you if that multiple choice are all answers that are within your wheelhouse, your core competencies. The worst thing you can do is ask an open-ended question, and a lot of people will just walk away because it just is too much work to think and write that down. And what's worse is when they write it down and it's something you can't do, and then they get mad because, well, why'd you ask me if you can't do it? And then remember to ask your readership for feedback on a regular basis. Quarterly pick random numbers, percentages of the group, the subscriber base, invite them to a survey, offer them an incentive that you think is warranted in order to juice up the response rates, and get some feedback. When you're out having dinner with a client, ask them if they're reading it. What do they think about it? What can make it better? Don't be shy. This is a valuable tool, and their input here is really critical. Okay, so if you're going to write your own, you're going to produce your own, or even if you're going to review what others write and approve it, it's really important to keep the following things in mind. First, always address the 5 W's and an H. Who, what, when, where, and why, along with how. Answer those questions in your content so that your audience and your readers are learning something and are getting the complete picture. Research and cite sources and use quotes and facts and statistics. The readers love them. Be short and concise and respect their time. Remember, proofreading and editing, preferably by someone else who knows how to do it. Hey, I'm not that good at it. I have others that proofread for me. Next, leave the sales hype for the promotional offers, not the newsletter content. You can have maybe 2 or 3 articles in an offer, but that's not a hard push sales piece. The goal is to inform, engage, and build trust. Aim for the click. You want them to click to read more or to download because that signifies they're engaged. And when you get them to your site to finish the story, read more, you have the opportunity for them to go read more about your services and what you offer and become even more aware of who you are and other ways that you can help them. Be reliable and consistent in terms of look, tone, quality, and even when the newsletter arrives in their inbox. Remember to write so that you answer what's in it for me for the reader. Give them benefits. You may be faster and smarter than everybody, but that doesn't mean an awful lot to them. What's that in it for them? Can they save money? Do they have peace of mind? What's the benefit? Have the newsletter set up so the reader can simply hit reply to in order to send you a question or a comment, and be sure that the email comes to your inbox so you can respond. Personal story. Worked for a company. They were upset because their customers were mad and the email newsletter didn't look to be performing. What had happened was an employee had left 6 months earlier, and that email went to that person's inbox, and it had never been reassigned and forwarded to someone who was still with the company. So there were over 500 emails that had come in from clients that had gone ignored. That's a great way to shoot yourself in the foot and really burn your loyalty bridges. Now, preview text. Again, if you're doing this on your own, you're going to notice here on these examples, these are screenshots from Apple Mail and Gmail. You can see who the email is from, the subject line, and the rest of the text is the preview text. Now, this is what your readers are going to see in their inbox when they go look, if they're using Apple Mail or Gmail. Gmail on the right, Apple Mail on the left. So on the left, the first one, I see it's from Lauren Paniswitch. And the headline, subject line, North Point 2015 new product kickoff, follow, and it runs off. And then, hello, this is a friendly reminder, new product kickoff will be next Wednesday. Use the space well. Look at the right side, the first one under Gmail. It's from art.com, discover global photography and decorative maps. Okay, now I know what the email is about. Next line, up to 35% off. That's going to motivate me to open it up. So that's the importance of setting this up so that Do I see a person's name? Do I see a company's name? Do I see a headline, a subject line that's very clear and concise and tells me what the subject matter is about? And then in the preview text, am I getting into the details that are really going to make me open it up? This next one under art.com comes from tigerdirect.com. Meet the fall lineup, 480 gigabyte SSD, 169, blah, 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 it goes off the screen. Don't wait to get the latest tech. View images, mobile version, check priority. They missed an opportunity there. Next one underneath it, Banana Republic. You know who they are. 40% off for sale. I think we got a sale going on. Then underneath it, the perfect excuse for a new outfit. Can't see the images in the email, view in a browser. Oh, you lost me right there. But you need to pay attention to these before you send them out, and you need to craft them all very well because they can have a huge impact on anyone opening up your emails. All right, email subject line tips. What makes a good subject line and what makes a bad subject line? Well, first, keep the goals of the newsletter in mind. Sometimes people write the newsletter with one goal in mind, and then they go to the subject line and they go completely different directions. Is there something they will be downloading for free? Can you localize and personalize? People skim the subject lines when they see their name or city. They stop and are more likely to open when it's, hey, Pat, check out the great savings from, or, hey, Jim, look at this great white paper on, or whatever the case might be. Test, 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 test. Test a lot, all the time. I'm constantly amazed at what works and what doesn't work. Meet me for dinner was the subject line that was reportedly one of the most successful subject lines used by President Barack Obama's re-election committee as part of their fundraising efforts. Other subject lines included, take this seriously, and to be frank, who'd have thunk it? Use groups and segments helps a lot. One of the email campaigns I manage targets about 4,000 college campus leaders, college and university leaders. And there's from president to provost to vice president director. It's a wide variety of levels in the organization and roles and responsibilities. When I can segment based on job level, for example, the executives, the president, chancellor, provost, COO, versus directors and vice presidents, I can get a much more focused topic for the emails and the subject lines, and a much higher open rate and a much higher click rate than if I'm trying to send one thing to everybody. And the last one, of course, urgency. Act now. Don't let this pass you by. Those things still work. Other important things to keep in mind, and use numbers. The 5 biggest tips, the 6 greatest ways, 5 ways to do X. People love lists. Ask questions. How are you going to do? Did you know that? Make sure the subject is using the same tone the newsletter uses. Again, this gets back to writing it in the same frame of mind and with the same goals and intentions. Don't shout. Stay away from all caps. Please. Thank you. All right. Your email newsletter is written. It's ready to send out at its regular scheduled day and time. What else do you do besides sit back and watch the reports on open rates and click rates like they do in that commercial? Make sure you've got a plan created to archive your past issues in one place, and that latest issue gets there. Then publicize the archive. Promote the issue in your Twitter feed, your LinkedIn corporate page, your personal news feeds, Facebook pages. Why? Because it's a great way to attract new subscribers. We covered a lot here today, and I really appreciate you sticking through it all. I hope it was of value. From the reasons why you need to have an email newsletter to what can be done to fail, as well as a lot of insights into what can be done to succeed. We've covered a lot today. Like, what's your goal going to be? How will you achieve it? Remember to invite your customers to subscribe. How to determine if the newsletter should be written internally or externally. We talked about how to grow your list, as well as how to write great content. We talked about the importance of preview text and subject lines. And lastly, we talked about promoting each issue. Now, it's an awful lot. I hope you found it valuable. Now, are there any questions? Some of the examples of some of the gifts, the goodies you get. Again, you're going to, when I send out the link to the archive in tomorrow's email, in it will be a link to a page where you can download the following: 7 common mistakes of email, 7 common email mistakes and how to avoid them. 29-step email marketing checklist for success. 9 steps to build your subscriber list. Segmenting your lists, identifying topics they want. Free editorial calendar and production schedule. 7 tips for subject lines that increase open rates. If you have any questions, there's my email address and phone number. Never hesitate to reach out and give me a call or drop me an email. I'm always happy to help. And thank you again for your time. Look forward to seeing you at a future webinar.